Let's bring in criminal defense attorney, federal litigator Vikas Bajaj. I mean, Vic, you look at all these reports now that law enforcement spotted this shooter 26, some say 30 minutes before the shots were fired. I mean, nothing happened. This investigation is revealing some amazing things. I mean, what do you make of this information?
You know, not to make light out of it, but sometimes we tell people, hey, you had one job to do. The Secret Service had one job to do. Within that one job is to coordinate local law enforcement, because local law enforcement generally has the responsibility to protect the peripheral areas from the protected party, president, vice president, candidate. In this case, they dropped the ball completely for one particular reason. The line of sight was not blocked by either an apparatus behind the president or something to stop any rooftop access. It was a direct line of sight that did not require the shooter to move around before expending the missile or the firearm, in this case, the gun. And it was a stationary thing. The depressing thing about it is it gives all of us a sense of insecurity and fear. This morning I had an opportunity to speak with a number of high-ranking individuals with the San Diego Sheriff's Department. All of them were absolutely disheveled, in a poor state of mind. And as we began talking about this, it became very clear that they believe local law enforcement looks horrible when, in fact, Secret Service was in charge of herding those kittens, as they say. In the introductory comment there, Trace, you astutely point out there that a law enforcement officer was hanging on that rooftop and actually identified the shooter seconds before the shot rang out. Now, the quote from this morning with my deputies that I spoke with, they said as they put their hand on their badge, when we swear to uphold the safety of the community, we agree to take that bullet, especially for the President of the United States. Yeah, I mean, the case is just growing. We're getting more and more information. I can't let you go, Vic, before I talk about the documents case being dropped against former President Trump. Jonathan Turley said this about that this morning. Watch.
If you were to have one case dismissed, if you had to have a wish list, this would be it. I've said from the beginning, Florida was the greatest threat to Donald Trump. Here, Smith was relying on established law. He will likely appeal this to the 11th Circuit. Some judges are going to disagree, so we don't know whether this will be upheld, but eventually it has to go to the Supreme Court.
Yeah. Would you agree with that? Would you add anything, Vic?
I'd agree with that. This decision was really a separation of powers issue. This is the executive branch appointing an individual to enforce the law without any legislative oversight whatsoever, either through the appropriations for the money being used or by an appropriate appointment of this individual. This is a separation of powers decision. We've seen this theme through the Supreme Court throughout this tendency at this point in time, and that appeal, while it may be filed, is not going to be fruitful. Justice Clarence Thomas has already given out sort of a crumb of the way the Supreme Court may go. I do not disagree with the statements by Turley there. He is spot on.
So the president, yes or no, out of legal jeopardy at least until after the election?
I believe yes.
Vic, thank you much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Up next.